would rear, he would do like all these like things on the ground, and in our world we would put a chain on him.
Yep.
He would get hotter with a chain. Then I met Dana and he was like, put a rope halter on him. So I started doing that, and he was actually like way more respectful on the ground, and I never looked back.
Dressage is scored toward a perfect 100, a number no rider has ever reached. Kasey Perry-Glass just rode as the top American at the World Championships in Aachen, and she's chased that number her whole career. Here's the part the scoreboard skips: the pressure we hand our horses, the groundwork that changed how she rides, and how one of the country's best learned to stop shrinking and meet the horse in front of her. Before we begin today's episode, I'd love to ask for your support. The simplest way to support this podcast is to hit follow or subscribe wherever you are listening. It helps the show reach more people who care about the same things that we do: better horsemanship, deeper conversations, and a more thoughtful future for horses and the people who love them. And if this podcast has meant something to you, leaving a rating, a review, or a comment makes a huge difference. So thank you for being here. I really do not take your time or attention for granted. Now, let's dive into today's episode.
I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because I have followed your journey like a lot of people in the horse world. And I really, really value your perspective because you have a rather unique life.
It feels quite boring, actually.
Okay, well, it's not from the outside. Like, and now maybe I'll start by saying your husband is Cowboy.
Mm-hmm.
Something that not everyone listening to this episode might know.
Mm-hmm.
How did you meet?
We met, I would say like 18 years ago. Oh my gosh. I was just graduating. Maybe it wasn't that long ago, but I was just graduating college, and he was working on a ranch in Colorado. And my parents decided to go and pay for a dude ranch experience where you, it's a horse drive where they go 60 miles, 30 one day, 30 the next day. But they have the full experience of watching the cowboys buck out the horses and the bonfires, like the whole thing. They lived in a cabin that the water smelled like sulfur. Like it was just, you had the option to go to a hotel, but it was frowned upon. But so my parents did that 1 year and then decided to take my sister and I. And Dana was one of the wranglers on the trip. I wasn't really, he was kind of the untouchable one. He was very busy, and he had his cute little heeler dog with the bullwhip. He was just kind of the perfect package, but he became friends with my sister. And after that trip, I think 8 years went by.
Wow.
And he decided he was going to move to Washington. And that's where I was living at the time, in Spokane. And him and my sister were still friends. And so she directed him to me and told me, hey, you have a friend there. Kasey's there. You can chat with her and she can show you around. And after 2 months of just like chatting as friends, we formed a relationship and more of a friendship. And then it became something more when he got there. It was kind of love at first sight. So it was fun because he was in the horse stuff, but it was such a different avenue than I was in. And I actually am like that at heart. Like the Western side, I like love that. Like the whole just being to get on the horse and just go is like fun, you know? And when he saw what I was doing, he was a bit like, what is a sport? Like he had no idea about it. And then he really got intrigued when he saw Doublé, the horse that I had at the time. And I told him about my Olympic dream, and that was at the very beginning. So, you know, to hear that, it was quite ambitious of someone, you know, and people always say like, I really want to go to the Olympics and like do that. And a lot of times I get shot down, and I had a really good support team around me. And so he just joined in on the support team, and I was gone half the year. And so we spent a lot of time long distance. And he would come to Florida every once in a while to visit. And it was hard. It was not easy for us to be apart like that and like actually have a relationship.
Yeah.
But I think those were a very challenging time for us. And then he ended up proposing in 2015. And we were like, do we try to push the wedding before the Olympic year or after the Olympic year? And we pushed it to do it before.
Yeah.
And our wedding was beautiful. And then the Olympic year was the most, everyone says the first year of marriage is really hard. It was really hard.
I can only imagine.
It was really hard. The poor guy, he had to support me from afar. I was in Europe and going through a lot of emotional stuff. Just, my first Grand Prix year on Doublé, and I was already going to compete for a spot on the team. And I wasn't an experienced Grand Prix horse or a Grand Prix rider. So just going through those new things, I completely shut him off and like kind of dug into my hole. And so our marriage suffered at that point. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So we came out of it, and now he's like, I lean on him for my like support when I do all this horse stuff. So
Okay, there's like so much cool stuff I want to unpack with you
Yeah.
there. Okay, so going back to, you said that you love just getting on a horse and go, and like going into the like that part of what Dana does and that world that he comes from. And what would you call, for everyone who's listening who doesn't know what Dana does, what does Dana do?
He is more on the horsemanship side of things. Right now, during season, I would say he really hones in on like breaking the young ones and working with horses that people have some type of, I hate the word issue, because I feel like, and I hate kind of saying problem horses, because I feel like it pins a lot on to the horse, when reality is it is a majority of our stuff that we put onto them. And I've learned that from him. So I feel like, and he takes on a lot of these horses, rears, buckers, bolters, anything that people are having issues like in performance wise. He'll take them in and try to unpack their trauma, I would say.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then off season, he tries to do educational things. Like he'll go and do, last couple of years, he's done the Buck Brenneman colt starting clinic.
Awesome.
He'll try to travel around and do other clinics. But I would say during season's the most emotionally challenging time for him, because he has to take on so much emotion with these horses. And so it becomes a lot. He just is drained. So during off season, I really want him to go be free, do what he used to do, and just, work cattle and, just kind of get away from the trauma around things.
When you say that he gets really drained during season because he takes on a lot of emotion,
Yeah.
how does he describe that to you?
He doesn't. I would say he doesn't even have to describe it. We've housed a couple of these horses that he's taken in. We're not a boarding facility, and no one really works out of our barn but myself. And there's an off time where we'll have the horses that he's working with come in. And to see him work with these horses, I can feel it. And I can feel like the confusion, the frustration. I can feel all that kind of stuff. And I can only imagine, with the knowledge that Dana knows and like how he works with them, how much you're talking, like 10 horses a day of that type of behavior and like that type of communication he has to have with them. I try to do groundwork with my horse, and I'm like, this is exhausting. Because you have to be so focused, and you have to, and he's a good boy, like he's really trying, and like he's a baby, so he doesn't have a whole lot of that baggage. But if you work with a horse that has been in and out of programs for so long, and is already forming a rearing issue or a bolting issue or like things like that haven't been, I would say, emotionally unpacked, then that can be really draining on anyone, no matter if you shut it off or not, I feel like. And the good thing about Dana is that he has a lot of empathy for these horses. Like he really takes on their I want to help them. He's in it to help the horse. And he has his own childhood stuff that he's gone through. And so I think that that's what formed his path to the horsemanship stuff. And so just knowing that and just seeing how he ends his day, I can just see it's like, okay, I need to let down a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Did Dana introduce Groundwork to you?
yes.
Yeah.
He did. I actually never used a rope halter ever until I got Doublé, and he was really hot. Like on the ground, he's drugged me before.
He's dragged you.
Yeah. He took off and just
Oh,
I was gone with him. And he's rear. He would rear. He would do all these things on the ground, and in our world we would put a chain on him.
Yep.
He would get hotter with a chain. And then I met Dana, and he was like, put a rope halter on him. And so I started doing that, and he was actually way more respectful on the ground, and I never looked back. All the horses we have are in rope halters. So that was the starting point of it. And then we have our 2 babies that we started together the first time. And so he wanted me to be the first on my baby, and that was terrifying. I don't do that. I'm not a baby I'm a chicken. And so we're working the groundwork, and it's such a different world. It's like learning how to post a trot again. When you're first starting, and it could be so basic, but yet it's so detailed and so beneficial. And so we started working with that, and I still have him come in, and I'm stuck here. His shoulder's not coming through, or he's the other day my horse was anticipating me, moving him through, and all these things that I can't catch, but he's that's your issue right there. You need to work on that little piece. And I'm but I didn't even notice it at all. So I'm trying not to put so much pressure on myself. And that's another thing that he's taught me is you will make 1,000 mistakes in this. And you just have to keep trying and keep doing it and not put so much pressure on yourself. And eventually you'll start to get into the rhythm of what it should be. And so I think that my groundwork's not the best, but I try.
Groundwork is an art.
Yeah.
Just like everything, just so much of what we do with horses. And it's it can be, I totally relate to how frustrating it could be, because you feel like you're like a baby learning how to walk again.
Yeah.
And it's very humbling.
It is.
But it's also very rewarding. So what was the changes that you saw in I want to call him Doublé.
Everyone
but then
calls
I've heard
him
Dublet.
Yeah, the announcers call him Doublet. I call him Doublé.
Okay.
Always called him Doublé.
Great.
It sounds better. It doesn't.
I thought, and I was like, the horse's name is Doublé.
Yeah.
And I watched a whole bunch of your tests. Yeah. And I was like, why are they calling him Doublet?
I know. I don't understand it.
Okay, Doublé. What were the changes that you saw in him once you started integrating some of Dana's approach to horsemanship?
It was actually quite interesting because I never wanted to do any of it with Doublé. The only thing that I ever did with Doublé was the rope halter.
Yeah.
Because I was afraid he was going to get hurt.
Right.
It's just a whole new, Doublé wasn't used to, taking his hind end and getting his hind leg. Yeah. And getting all those things, I was too afraid of him getting hurt.
That's very
And
fair.
so I did do a lot of free lunging with him. And I don't know if it was a lot of the correct stuff, but I love the fact that my horses can be offline and just be on their own a bit and stretch, and I feel like that's when I know that they're comfortable in their bodies and their minds, is when I can let them go and they're just jogging around in a free stretch and just quiet. And he was really good at that. And so I started incorporating that with all my horses. I had a horse that anytime that you would put it on a lunge line, the moment you stepped back to like tell her to go, she would take off and just spin. And I'm like, oh God. Eventually, by the couple of years, she was free lunging and she just was quiet. And I'm like, those are the connections I love.
The invisible line.
Yeah. And I can walk back and they turn and they face me. And then we could walk around the round pen and I joke a lot that they're actually working me because I try to play with him and like run around and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, but Doublé never really, I think, benefited. He never got into the whole groundwork, that kind of stuff. I think inherently, I was always more of a sympathetic rider in the sense of I want it to be classical and I want to be able to have very quiet aids and a really good relationship with my horse. I've always been that way. And do I make mistakes? Yeah, we talked about that. I think everyone makes mistakes all the time, no matter how quiet you are. And because that can also be a mistake, I think, too. Being too passive and too, like, I don't want to touch him because I don't want to hurt him. And like these type of things, I think that can also be a mistake because you're not helping your horse. So there's a line. And so I think that I was already in the midst of knowing the style that I wanted to have for my own riding. And it veers more to Dana's expertise, I would say. So now that we have Heart and we have 2 babies and those type of things, we can really ingrain that into our program.
So cool.
Still afraid that they're going to get hurt. I think it's just they can get hurt doing what we do,
Yeah.
So it's just it's a matter of it's just new.
And there is an element of that. So I want to like dive a little bit into the culture of dressage, because from observing a little bit on the outside, having familiarized myself with the world over the years, there is much more of that perfectionist. Like I always wonder whether certain tribes within the horse world draw certain types of personality type.
Yeah.
And there's this discipline and this perfectionism that exists within the culture of dressage, which can be so beautiful because there can be such, I mean, when you see dressage done well, I think it's one of the most remarkable things to witness in person.
Yeah.
And I wonder, how does that feel for you? Like, even the concept of dressage scoring, like you're trying to achieve 100, there's the score of 100%. And are you ever going to get 100%?
Yeah.
The argument would be no.
Yeah.
Especially because it's subjective.
We're all C. We're C or D.
Right.
C or D.
So that
Sometimes F.
Yeah. Like, so thinking about that mindset for an individual and then how that plays out in the relationship and with sort of the environment for your horse. Can you explain a little bit of like that pursuit? Do you feel like, and now that you have Dana in your life to like kind of give you a nice perspective on where your world sits amongst all the worlds?
Yeah.
How does perfectionism play in all of this?
I think it is experience to where, and it's so cliche to say it's a journey with your horse, right? It's like, that's like what we say. But I think that the moments that we start getting over greedy or zealous, I think that that's when the perfectionism comes in.
I want to take a quick pause to invite you into my brand new Substack. Each week, I publish essays on the horse world, from equine industry insights, horse culture, equine economics, even the more mystical, spiritual, and relational side of life with horses. It's where I write more candidly about what I'm seeing, questioning, learning, and working through with my own horses. A lot of these essays are inspired by the wisdom of my podcast guests, my NF Plus instructors, and the incredible horses who keep asking me to look deeper. There are free and paid pieces, and subscribing is a beautiful way for you to support my work in the horse world. You can find my Substack at noellefloyd.substack.com or through the link in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the episode.
But I think that the moments that we start getting over greedy or zealous, I think that that's when the perfection comes in. And then we all have those rides where we get off and we go, like you just have that like gut feeling that it was unfair, to your horse.
Yeah.
And like, you're just like, I wish I never, didn't push that so much. Or like, and I think it's important to hone in on that feeling. And then the next rides go, can I work this a different way? And can I, not take on that perfectionism so much? Because I think anything in life nowadays, everything is supposed to look perfect. Not just our sport, right? It's like everything in our life, I feel like, is the clean countertops and like the clean everything. It's supposed to look perfection.
Yeah.
But training and life is messy. And so I think that the only time that works is when you are allowed to experience failure and know that that's okay. And it's going to feel bad and it's going to feel like, I can't do that. But if you keep pushing through and keep gaining your knowledge of something, you're going to break through it. It might just take some time. And that's when you reach out to your colleagues and your friends and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you give me a different exercise to do? Can you start to search a little bit of how you can make it clear to your horse? And perfectionism is not real. And that's why I don't do social media a lot. Because
Good for you.
Because I feel like only things are posted because when they're perfect.
Yeah,
I'm guilty of it too, being like, wow, look at this line of ones and like, all that kind of stuff. But it's like maybe two slides before that, I was not getting 15 ones, and I do see a lot of people starting to post imperfections, which I love, but you get slammed for it, I'm a perfectionist. I actually have, I feel like, some OCDs and like
Guilty.
Yeah, it's like but I also have to know that I am working with an animal. This horse cannot control. He probably could tell me if his body's tired, but most of the time they don't. And so you have to be able to say that line was good enough for today and then come back at it tomorrow, or, and not expect it all the time. And Dana really believes that horses go in and like into their turnouts, into their stalls, and like really soak in what was happening that day. And like if you end on like a good solid, okay, that was good, they really start to process that, and half the time they come back out the next day and they're better, And so I think that we like get in this tunnel vision of I have to get it right now, and the horses don't know, like they're just trying their best. So I think that we have to step away sometimes from end on a good note and come back and try it again tomorrow, and don't kill your horses for it,
Martin Black calls it let him cook on that one.
Yeah.
And I actually have learned more about horse psychology from cowboys that have never read a horse behavior, or like they're not reading the science.
Yeah.
They're actually just practicing the art of it. And it's like now when you have people like Dr. Stephen Peters who are bringing the neuroscience into it, and that's why like evidence-based horsemanship, that book like has blown so many people's minds, because it was something that cowboys have been doing for a long time, backed by the neuroscience of how horses think and learn.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing it more and more is like better to quit too soon than to quit too late.
1000%.
Don't overcook the learning.
Mm-hmm.
Are you trying to teach something, or are you trying to like get something as good as it possibly can be? Do you know that as a rider going into that ride?
Yeah. Do you find it to be the norm of society of like sports when it says repetition is like key, and so our bodies can handle it because we know when our body's like about to break.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if horses learn that way. Like they can. I think that is important to like, but there's also a line on the other side of that of like, now you're doing it the wrong thing too much.
It makes me think of so when you watch a Martin Black colt starting clinic, he'll talk and it was hard for me to hear this the first time. He said, you're going to kind of sacrifice this horse and you're not going to do it perfectly this time because I have to teach you how to do it. But then you're going to be better for the 100 other colts that you start.
Sure. Yeah.
I think we mistake repetition with the one horse. I think the repetition that's required for us to be great is over many years, many weeks, many days, many horses.
Yeah.
And you also have to be really honest about
one horse to one ride.
Yeah. Like, are you sacrificing that horse's experience for you to learn that better?
Yeah.
That was a hard lesson I feel like I had to learn. And the more and more I get into horsemanship and the more I learn from people that have prioritized even starting horses, but then also working with horses like Dana works with, that horses that are fundamentally frustrated and that are acting out behaviorally and saying like, hey, this is not okay. I don't understand this and I'm confused and I need someone to explain this to me better.
Yeah.
The more I realize like how much are we prioritizing the rider's learning versus the horse's learning? Because they're two very different things. I think that's kind of how I see it now. I definitely saw it differently when I was a competitive show jumping rider.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there's also a component of pain in it too, right? So it's like, I think that Dana's always been really good about me being like, let me check off some things when I'm dealing with a horse. Like if it's, I've had a head flipper or like a one that would like flip and like she would pull me to one direction and like just random stuff. But it was very important to me to be able to like, let me get things checked off my list to make sure she's not in pain.
Oh, yeah.
And then, then we'll go the route of behavioral, because I think it's like, there could be a lot of factors in that and they can't tell you. Like they can in like these behavioral stuff, but
dude, that is a topic.
Yeah.
Pain versus behavior.
Yeah.
I mean, I have gone through that with my own mare. That she was a mare that had been rehomed a ton of times. She is an Appaloosa mare. She was feral for half her life. And, everyone was like, oh, this mare is behaviorally, this is all behavior.
Yeah.
Okay. Fast track, I've had her for almost 2 years, I can tell you. And I've been so grateful and lucky that I've had access to amazing health experts in the horse world. They have helped me break down how much of that was actually pain and discomfort. She had bone spurs in C2, C1, C2, and L4, L5.
Yeah.
She had a flipped ovary, 270 degrees. Her right ovary was flipped 270 degrees.
That was even possible.
Me neither.
Wow.
So here we are. This and again,
what does that do? Cut off the hormones or something?
So it makes all the muscles. So it affects all the muscles and all the fascia around her whole all around the ovary on the right side.
Yeah.
And
so it's like this.
Yeah. And ironically, her right side was her tight side.
Yeah.
Right. But here we are thinking also her teeth.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I just had Dr. Cindy Allen come and do her teeth. And I learned so much about how bad we do their teeth and then how that affects.
Mine comes from Europe. Because she's so like, I'm like, I have my team that I like trust. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, that's where I find it's actually overwhelming is the more I learn, and this is like, we talked about this before we press record, you almost like the more you learn what you don't know, or there's like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's the world of horses and horsemanship is like, it's like the ocean. And so I feel like the more educated I get, the less opinionated I get, the more forgiving I get of everybody else, because I think half of the poor decisions and the poor things we see in the world is from miseducation or poor education or uneducated, decision making. And so are you going to blame someone for their ignorance, especially if it's not willingly held?
Yeah.
Like that, I think is a huge dichotomy that I sit with, but I'm so glad you brought up pain and I'm so glad that.
And that's something I'm teaching Dana too. So it's a two-way street that's happening, because I do think that a lot of people don't take into consideration pain. And I don't necessarily think that Dana, that's his first look, right? I think that he's more of like, if they do it correctly, if we do this correctly, they won't be in pain type thing. And I'm like, but they're coming in with probably some damage happening in their body, you know? So I'm trying to instill that into him too, of like, can we make sure that people are getting cleared by their vets of they've gotten ulcers looked at, they've gotten, you know, all the things.
Bone chips, internal.
Yeah.
I mean, Dr. Connie Fancy came on this podcast, talked about all the internal restrictions that take place within horses.
My horse's body right now is like the best it's ever. He's a very tight, tense horse. Yeah. He's very, very tight and tense, and chiropractic doesn't work on him. Like I tried, but they're like, his muscles are too tight. Like he doesn't hold anything. You know, I've worked on that a lot. And the one thing that he struggles with is his stomach. And not necessarily ulcers, it's more like hindgut stuff.
Yeah.
But when I have that like really good on some medications or supplements that help it, he's so happy to work. But he is like very loud if his stomach is not right. And I've learned to hone in on, people think I'm crazy when they're new and they come into my barn, and I'm like, can you just come at him slowly? Like, can you like, you know, he's very nervous about people around him that are new poking on him. And but those are the stuff he came into my program with. Like, that wasn't like, so I think that pain can be a long lasting issue to where they don't want to do something for so long because something is painful.
Yes.
And then it becomes a bigger problem.
And I do think that horses actually also have psychosomatic process as well. So I think that when they've been in pain for so long and then the pain is removed, the tension and the anticipation still exists.
1,000%.
Right? So it's like we have to get good enough to read to go, is this behavioral or is this physiological?
Yep.
And so cool to hear that you're bringing that, because I do believe that a lot of the Olympic disciplines and a lot of the performance, I would call high performance, and we call it like English, Western, Olympic, non-Olympic.
Sure.
You know, lifestyle, sport, whatever you want to, you know, there's so many different ways to look at it. But like the
lifestyle sport sounds really good.
Yeah, right. Because like it's so cool to see. And I agree that I think the high performance side can bring a lot of, we are so focused on the horse's bodies and you know, like how that horse is feeling in their body. Are they physically capable of doing what we're asking them to do?
Yeah.
And sometimes, and that's where the Western side comes in, or the natural horsemanship side, which happens to be just a little bit more on the Western, in the Western side of things, the spectrum. We're a little bit sometimes over, like we kind of skip over do they want to?
Yeah.
Do they understand?
Yeah.
What we're asking.
Yeah.
And then over here they go, do they understand? Do they want to?
Yeah.
And they maybe skip over the can they?
Yeah.
Can they physically do what you're asking them to do?
Mm-hmm.
So that's so cool that you and Dana are literally bringing, that to me is like modern horsemanship.
Yeah.
At Conaway & Associates Equine Insurance Services, they understand how special your horse is. That's why I personally chose to work with them to insure my horses before we embarked on this epic journey across the country. I chose them because their agency writes coverage in 48 states. They also work with several A-rated admitted insurance carriers, so you have options and can select the insurance coverage that best suits your own unique needs. Having confidence in my insurance selection allows me peace of mind on this journey. I can focus on my horses and embrace these learning opportunities of a lifetime. Who better to trust with the insurance of your horse than a team of fellow horse people? Conaway & Associates was founded in 1992 by Laura Conaway, herself a Grand Prix show jumping rider. Laura and her experienced team have built a strong reputation as a reliable partner, building relationships through service, trust, and understanding. Explore www.conaway.net or call them for competitive, personalized insurance coverage options from their team of like-minded equine insurance professionals.
So that's so cool that you and Dana are literally bringing, that to me is like modern horsemanship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bringing the two worlds
Still
together.
working on them, but it's
Dana, if you're listening to this podcast, work harder. We're calling you out, bro.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's I've seen top riders not care enough about a horse's body.
Yeah.
Like I've seen that, um and even our governing bodies are taking away things that for at horse shows that they're not really allowing us to give them, like B vitamins.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hard.
It feels like it's challenging. I mean, when I watch what's all the changes that are taking place in eventing and show jumping, in dressage, there seems to be a lot of reactive policy regulation changing, systemic changing, which I think can be, when I think about even just if you were to do all that systemic change on a horse that you had in training, how would that feel for them? And I can feel, I don't know about if you feel this way, but the horse world feels like a little the way that a horse would feel if you just changed everything about their training program.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, okay, what's going to happen next? Yeah. And that's what kind of, I don't know if you feel this in dressage right now, but it kind of feels like that right now, that everyone's like, okay, what's going to happen next? What's going to change next?
Yeah. I just started noticing a lot more of eliminations happening in the tests for rightful reasons, and also for like, really, they just eliminate, like it's like a welfare thing where I'm so in the middle. I'm so like, I can understand and really love the fact that we're sticking up for welfare.
Yeah.
But I'm also on the fence of like, that was not necessarily needed to be eliminated for. It was very, the horse didn't pee off for a couple steps and like, or like have a big passat, like and then they call it something of like, not, the horse wasn't fit for Grand Prix.
Got it.
But it didn't look like that. It just was not, there's no energy to it. But was performing everything, like maybe not the pee off passage, but like everything else was fine. So I think that it is reactory.
Yeah.
I think that's
reactionary.
Reactionary. I think and hopefully there's a middle ground that can be having, but no one knew that they were starting to eliminate people for it's not just blood anymore. It's now like, if they feel like your horse is not fit, or if they're abusive riding or things like that, which again is really good.
Yeah.
But there has to be communication with the riders. There has to be more of a foundation of this is happening.
And an education.
Yeah.
And an education. How are we, like even some of the guests we've had in the studio, we're talking about how they're going to social media to understand what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because that's an unregulated platform.
Yep.
So, when there's confusion, I think confusion often leads to frustration.
Yeah.
And I think if riders don't know what to expect and how they're going to be measured and how they're going to be, I would agree with you. Everything that is taking place on behalf of horse welfare, every rider that I've talked to in the studio and every rider that I've talked to on the road, no one is disputing that the direction we're taking, which is drawing more of a microscope on horse welfare, is beneficial. I think where I'm hearing a lot of maybe frustration is the lack of communication and the lack of transparency about the processes, which, again, I think if our governing bodies are going to lead by example, then let's have open communication. Let's talk, because I'm seeing a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
And if, even in the way that we communicate, like the word blood is a very triggering word. If you see the word blood in headlines, right? People are going to, like, there's so many things that people think of.
Yeah.
They think of like gushing blood. They think of like a huge spur mark.
Yeah.
This might be a nick. I've heard of horses actually nicking themselves in the arena.
Yeah.
And then they get eliminated for that.
Yeah. Or scratches. Like they have like a fungus and it breaks open during mid-test, and, like right in the area where it bends, and there's, blood, which again, it's a rule. So we all know it's a rule.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And I think it's great. But again, I feel like the communication is not there at all. And I think that it needs to be more clear of what is expected. And I mean, we have safe sport programs where we have to renew our safe sport, I think, every year. They should be doing that with all of our rules that are changing. And like all of our expectations that, you know, we're cracking down on the welfare of the horse. Okay, but what does that look like? And, you know, like kind of formulating more of an education process versus like kind of just you're eliminated. What for? You know, like people are kind of walking out of the rings going like, why?
Do you also think, and this is something I've always been curious about, and now we have so now when you watch a dressage test, and this wasn't always the case, but when you watch a dressage test, they have it openly where they're how it's being scored, right? And that's really cool. And when that changed, I think everyone really appreciated it.
Yeah.
When you finish a test, what's the process to having access to your scorecard and like access to the judges?
It's pretty, I think it's once the class is done. And they do live scoring. So if you're sitting, I don't know if they do it for the CDI. Oh, they might. Yeah, I think they do because one of my friends was watching a live scoring. So you can see the scores right away. And you can see the comments from the judges. Half the time, I would say that they're not, you know, it's quite fast. So I think that the comments are brief. And a lot of times we already know what they are and like what we're still working on and like things like that. But the judging there needs to be more open dialogue with that too.
Well, and I
because
wonder,
everyone wants to be like, it's the judge's fault. But okay, yeah, probably. And what can we learn from it? You know, how can we be better? Is your horse, you know, behind the vertical and like really tighten its neck? Okay, well then you need to keep working on that, you know, and not expect these huge scores because your horse's legs move really big, you know.
Well, and I also think I wonder if that's a wonderful opportunity for there to be more education of the viewership, right? Because I know, so I'm curious what you think about this, because during Paris, there was a lot of discussion online about what the public or the general collective who are viewing and watching Paris and watching the dressage, they felt like the more control and less fluidity, more behind the vertical and less what maybe the collective understand as the correct contact and correct angles of that contact were being rewarded. Do you think that we could have more opportunity to explain? Do you think the judging within dressage at the Olympic level and at the international level could have an opportunity to then educate the public how they're judging each of the individual pairs and why?
I mean, I think yes. I think that they could always, in the commentary, like there's always a running commentary, someone that is talking about it. I think it would be awesome to have a judge in with the person that's commentating. There are breaks in between everything also. Like there's 15-minute drag breaks. Why don't they, you know, show an educational film? Or this is at the Olympic level, so it's more of like people that don't know, you know, and talk about the sport and talk about the different movements we're doing and, you know, the ideal frame and collection and all that kind of stuff. I think it would be awesome.
So a big topic, and the topic that was very present during Paris, was horses that go behind the vertical. For someone who's walking down the street and they see, and we're talking about being behind the vertical, or let's say Dana. Let's say Dana for the first time said, what's this whole behind the vertical thing? How did you explain it to him?
I would say the pole needs to be the highest point, right? So if you're looking at the neck, it needs to arc up to the pole at the highest point. And then if you draw a line from that down to from the forehead down to the nose should not be pulled back farther than that line. And is it a thing in every sport? It is.
Yes.
Every sport. And I think that it is one of the hardest training things because there are horses conformationally, I think, that tend to suck behind the vertical.
Yes.
No matter how hard you try. And so it's hard to train a horse that wants to do that and actually have true throughness too.
Yes.
And so I think that the education around that is also important. This might be a hot button, but I think that it is, everyone would love to do, not everyone, but a lot of people would love to be able to ride bridleless and do the pirouettes and like
Do the complicated maneuvers that you guys do.
Yeah. And I think it's beautiful. And I would love to do that and have that talent. Is it realistic? Probably not. I would say for true throughness and rideability. And sometimes maybe those horses aren't the happiest either, you know?
I think there's a big misconception about that.
There is a point to where when they're really above the vertical or above that, their pole's too high and too out, like the nose is too far out, their backs drop. And so I think that there's a fine line that's also not, you know, in education, people think that that's what horses should be doing. And I think that those horses could also have some pain involved too.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a line between all of it.
So when you are seeking that perfect balance, that sweet spot, Karen Rolfe calls it, where the pole is the highest point and the nose has not dropped behind that, would it be perpendicular? Yeah, angle. Why? Why do we want that place?
I believe structurally for the horse, it's the most comfortable spot. I think when they start to break over and pull their nose behind, it causes a lot of tension within the top part of their neck and their throat latch area. And I think that can cause some possible breathing stuff going on. There's also a point where it drops, it will almost sink their shoulders and their sternum down. And so when they're being ridden like that, it can just affect their whole back, their whole top line, really. But
it also makes me think of all that liberty work you've done with your horses. Something that I've learned on this trip, that from both Western and English riders, is that you get to learn where your horse's point of balance is.
1000%. Yep. 1000%. And every horse is so different. Right. And you know,
wait, say that again.
Every horse is very different.
So a point of balance for Doublé is going to be different to a point of balance for Heart.
Yes.
Is going to be different to a point of balance for my mare.
Yes.
And so when we can't copy and paste what throughness looks like for each horse.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to Dana, because and the horsemanship side of things, because that's one of the few things that they look for is helping a horse find its own balance. And then, which is hard, because now I look at how some people start their horses in our world and how we almost take that completely away from them. Completely away by putting on side reins and, you know, really tight on the outside, causing them to lean in, you know, all to put them in a frame and make them move bigger, you know, and find throughness that way versus finding throughness through them first finding balance and where their feet are. And when they don't know where their feet are, you're kind of screwed. So yes, when the rearing comes and like they get, you know, you have no tools to help them.
Yeah.
And so when you can, you know, I don't use side reins or draw reins. I'm not educated in them because I never use them. And I would rather work through throughness and problems without them. And because I think that that's when you really get to the nitty gritty of what's going on.
But I love what you said there about you're not educated with them.
Yeah.
Because I do think that understanding how to use training aids effectively so that they become tools, not handicaps.
Yes. Yeah.
I also feel like I'm only just starting to understand how, you know, when I watch colt starting done really, really well, what I love is everything that they do when they start a horse and they first back a horse. Everything they do has some correlation to how the horse will feel or what the horse is going to be asked of when they're backed for the second or third or fourth time.
Yeah.
The amount, it's like a spider web. It's like this.
Yep.
It's amazing.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And so like, shout out to everyone who does this for a living, because when I first started watching, like, oh, and then, you know, this piece will lend to when the horse is feeling pressure on this, from the leg.
Yeah.
And this will be a tool that you're going to use when the horse starts to get quick. This is going to be able to how you slow down the pace.
Yep.
This is when you switch eyes.
Yeah.
This is when you cross your weight across the back. Like, I remember just being like, wow, there's so much science behind when you start a horse, and you can truly, through a very small handful of moments, give the horse all the tools they need to understand what they're going to be asked of when you're sitting
From the ground.
From the ground.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if this is not like,
I'm not a pro at it, and it makes me like excited to talk about it, because it's like, it is really interesting. Yeah.
So much of what we do on the ground, that's why it's so incredible that an Olympic dressage rider and a colt-starter and natural horseman are together having conversations in your life, building a life together. Because I believe one of the greatest opportunities the horse world has right now is to recognize that as much profound moments can happen on the ground as can happen in the saddle.
Yep.
And that as much communication training can happen on the ground that will inform your time in the saddle.
Yeah.
I mean,
my husband already put, like, when I got on our baby after I got on for the first time, that was terrifying, because he put me in the round pen with his other horse, Chug, and his name was Chug-a-lug.
Great name. Great name.
The cutest thing ever. And he dallied off on Chug, my baby. And he was like, this horse can't go anywhere, so you can get on. He'll just probably try to run around Chug, and Chug won't do anything. And I'm like, just running around Chug makes me nervous, because I have no bridle on. I just have a rope or a rope halter. And then once he started doing more of the actual, like, handiwork on him, I got on him I think I just got on him, a couple months ago. And I could leg yield him. I could put on haunches in. I can do walk pirouettes. I can do turn on the forehand. I can do, all these things that dressage babies don't know. Like, they don't usually do that, because we just go straight and forward. And like, that's a big thing in our sport. And but now I have the tools to where if I go into a new environment, I can keep his feet busy, and he knows where his feet are. So if I get stuck, I have tools to go and do something with him, instead of him just being panicked and running, And I think that it opened my eyes to a lot of that kind of stuff, of how we don't introduce that until I think they're 5, 6, maybe.
Yeah. It's so cool, the relationship with the aids.
Yeah.
And what, leg yielding, turn on the haunches, this is distribution of balance.
Yes.
Right? It's actually like, when you talk to it, and it's so fascinating, because you must have conversations with Dana, and he's like, yeah, that's like, duh.
Still learning this at the Grand Prix level. I mean, it's like insane.
But yeah. I think that's really special.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool that you guys have, and I love that you call your program and this endeavor, this journey that you're both on, called Two Worlds.
Yeah.
Two Worlds Equestrian, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I think that there's magic in that. What advice, because I think the opportunity that you both have had to navigate the Olympics together. I'm very curious, what did he think about all that that level of pressure?
He loves it. He's a sports guy. So he is like, he loves the competition of it. And I think that he has helped me. I was in the stage at one point after the Olympics. I went through a pretty bad depression right after the Olympics. And I put so much pressure on myself. It was like a gear up to this huge goal that I wanted for 5 years that I had with Doublé. And there was a lot of pressure of like, I bought this horse, our goal was the Olympics and all this kind of stuff.
And then you got to the Olympics.
I got to the Olympics and it was not my best. It actually probably was my worst performance that I've had on him.
Really?
And it was so hard. I ended up going through a really bad depression after, and I competed the next year, and then Doublé had an injury, so I had to kind of back off. And I've done a lot of work on my mental state because I'm an overachiever, and I am like, I don't care if I'm sick. I don't care if I, have so much on my plate. Like I almost thrive in that kind of stuff, but it's almost like a toxic trait, I would say. And I've had a really hard time slowing down. And once I had my child, my little girl True, I struggled again of trying to prioritize my ambitions and my goals and slowing down and being present for my child. And Dana is always in a state of presence. Like he's always really quite focused on the basics in life, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
I'm always looking at him like, what are you thinking about? He's like, nothing. And I'm like, I wish I could have that because I'm always thinking. And
I totally relate.
And so I went through a stage of blacking out when I was riding. Like not physically. Like it wasn't like falling off. Yeah. I just would get so tuned in on my rides or on a problem I was having to where I would think it was like 5 minutes has passed and it was like 10, 15 minutes had passed and I was working on that same thing over and over and over again. And I would black out time. And so I think what Dana's tuning into this kind of stuff that he does has really helped the fact that there's pressure at the top and there's a lot of like things have to be perfect. You have to be solid. You have to like, go in with clean tests, add power. Like you have to have the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And that takes time. That takes time to develop. And I put so much pressure on myself to do it as fast as I did with Doublé. And, just looking back at his career, I'm like, he was not his best at his first year. It took at least 3 years to be at his top performance, 3 or 4 years. And I think that we expect to be able to go out in our first test in national or first test in the CDI and just blow everyone away, And I think that's a pressure we put on ourselves that is unnecessary. And so I think Dana's helped a lot with just perspective of, like you're doing great. You're doing the work that is good for you, good for your horse. And, don't get flustered by the outside noise and just stay in your little bubble,
I completely relate.
Yeah.
For the record, I think it's hard not to be, it's a balance between being ambitious and then being impatient.
Yeah.
And I actually have a theory and I'm super curious what you think about this. So in the world that we live in now, I actually think it's harder to be a great horseman than it was 50 years ago. And I'll tell you why. So I can order anything I want on Amazon and it'll be here tomorrow.
I'm a horrible Amazon person.
Me too. My husband is so annoyed. You can go to Starbucks and you can actually order the drink that you want and it'll be ready for you when you get there.
Yeah.
You have a gas station every block. You can book a flight to anywhere in the world. You buy something, you can change it in a heartbeat. And it's almost ludicrous to think that you wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
So the world has become immediate. And yet horses have not changed. They still require the same amount of time and thought and patience that they did 100 years ago. But I actually think society mentored us to be far more patient. I think during the war, people had to wait sometimes months before they heard from their loved ones.
Yeah.
I can text, and if I see like the three dots, and then it goes away, I'm like, well, what were they going to say? Wait, what? And then it's read, but I haven't had received a response.
Yeah.
You know, that rabbit hole you go down, you're like, why hasn't that person responded?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's actually harder than it's ever been for humans to be patient.
Yeah. 1,000%. I think that, and the expectations are real high. Instead of like, again, getting into it while we're in it is the horses, you know? And like, I feel like, and it's harder down here in Wellington, I would say, to slow down because it's a bit of a rat race of, well, they're showing, I need to show, you know? And like, it's halfway through season. Why haven't you showed yet? And, you know, like all these like conversations that happen, or, you know, people wanting like these really big scores. And maybe it's the trainer's fault, not like being like the expectations, you know, like putting that out. But I'm also the type of person that loves believing in people and believing in that, like they can go out and do it, and like never giving up on someone because, you know, they have this ambitious dream, you know? And so I'm the worst when it comes to, so do you think I can do this? I'm like, I can't say no because I think there's a possibility for everything.
Cool.
So it's like, it's really hard for me to balance that of like reality. But I think that people, especially the younger generation, see all the social media reels and all the highlight reels that come out, and you're like, wow, that was amazing. But their test probably wasn't that good. You know what I mean? Like it's a hard world to live in. My child would not have a phone.
Yeah. I feel the same way, actually. I didn't have it. When did you first get a phone?
I think I was in high school, but they were like the little Nokia ones, Snake and all that.
Do you remember the flip phones?
Yeah, and you know, like all that kind of stuff. But nowadays, like I think that social media can be such a fun thing, but also such a scary. Yeah.
You said that you've worked a lot on your mental game.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit with what you've done?
Sure. I worked with Annette Paterakis. Totally butchered that, but she is amazing. She worked a lot with finding my score, finding my number, and of how I'm feeling that day for the show. If I feel too excited, so I had to find my perfect number, that like my perfect level of excitement with my perfect level of relaxation. And so she was like, if you are too on the high end, you know, maybe you need to do some jumping jacks, like maybe go for a little run, maybe like turn on some meditation music, something to bring that score back down. I guess jumping jacks wouldn't do that. That would bring me up. But like going and, you know, looking at the low end, if I'm too tired, maybe I need to take a nap to rejuvenate my number, or put on some upbeat music or something to get me a little bit more spicy.
Like jumping jacks.
Yeah. So I've had to kind of like find that. And I actually found that when I feel my best is when I am not putting so much pressure on myself. You know, like I feel like that was like the main thing, is if I'm somewhat having fun, because it's showing stressful. No one's going to say it's like always fun. And there's a level of anxiousness that makes it not so fun. And but if I can connect with my horse, I braid him. I do that like all myself. I'm usually really good about being so hands-on. If I can connect with him in that way and then have my routine to keep my nerves happy, then I'm usually really good. And I have to have a lot of good self-talk. And then I also worked with Jenny Susser, who I adore.
Yeah, shout out to Dr. Jenny.
Dr. Jenny is amazing. She worked with me a lot on a lot of like life, I would say, stressors, like with coaching and with people that were in my program or my team. And she really encouraged me to create the perfect ideal team, you know, and like everyone, that my goal was to have vets, farriers, body workers, everyone communicate. No one has egos. You know, I think that dealing with egos is like not fun. Not on my team. I'm a sensitive person, so I like to be able to communicate with someone if I don't like it or if I have a question, or I don't challenge. I'm not meaning it in a challenging way. I'm just education. I like to learn about it. And so she really pushed me into having the ideal team. And right now I'm like, I've gained my ideal team and I love every person that's on it. And she's just helped me work through how would you say it? Transitions. I talked to her when I was having my baby, and the anxiousness that I had going to try horses. I was terrified because I would see horses that Dana would work with that people just got in and that they've gotten bucked off of, or they just had some behavioral issues with. I was terrified to go get on these new horses because I was like, I see what's out there. I don't want to get on something that's going to kill me. Healthy respect for a horse. Yeah, sure. But I've done a lot of just both sides. I think therapy is amazing. And I probably, in my situation, would say that Dana and I have been in and out of marriage counseling, and we've worked through a lot, which is great. I think right now we are in a stage of, I actually love therapy, but I don't think right now it's valuable for us. I don't know why, but I feel like I don't want him, because I see for him, I see the work that he puts into our relationship. That is good enough for me right now. And I'm like, I don't want anyone to come in, and I'm almost being protective of them. Good for you. I don't want anyone to come in here and be like, that's not enough, or tear him down, or anything like that. So
I actually think
that might be too much information. Sorry, Dana.
But I feel like I know Dana. After this episode, I can't wait to meet him.
He's awesome.
I think it's really cool that you just named that, because I think talk therapy is one modality of therapy.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think it's supportive for everyone all the time.
Yeah. And I think it's another thing I find is that sports psychology can you have to find the right person, because in my case, I would love someone that dabbles in all of it. It's not just about performance. There's a deeper level of it, to where something that is happening in your real life or your childhood or something like that can affect your performance now. And I feel like that's what I haven't. Dr. Jenny was really good at that. Yeah, I think she was hands down the greatest with that. Is that it's an all-encompassing thing, and people are afraid. I think we talked about that earlier, to dig into that. And I think that to be confident in our riding and the way that we train our horses, it's so important to air that stuff out and work with it.
Yeah.
You should. It's funny because when Megan first started with me, the girl that works for me is amazing, and she's just like me in the sense, we're both we love people, we love encouraging and all that kind of stuff. And when she first started with me, I was broken, I knew who I was, but I was so insecure, and I had all these accolades, but I was so I can't do this. I can't, my confidence was so low. I had a hard time having any type of hard conversation, actually standing, standing my ground for anything, having a boundary. You can have a healthy boundary with everything.
Oh God, dude. What are boundaries?
I don't know. I've had to figure that out. And so I still figure it out. And so, but for me to say, no, I don't want to do it like that. You can say no in a very respectful way, or take in information, but don't have to do anything with it. That was a big thing for me, to be I'm a knowledge freak, and I will just keep taking information, and I will pick away at what works for me and my program.
Yes.
And I might try it, it might not feel right for me, and so I won't use it. And I think that that's been a huge growing process. And so if you were to ask Megan how I was 5 years ago versus now, it's it's very different. And I've done, the work that it doesn't feel like work because I think it's just a growing process through life, but it's been a journey.
Well, and I think when you're really open, and I'm curious if this has been your experience, but I think when you're really open, you also are open when you're like a sponge, like Josh Nichols, like, Noëlle, you have this insatiable, like, insatiable craving to learn.
Yeah.
And then you have this like overwhelming desire to share it.
Mhm.
So when you do that, then what happens is that you're very open. And so I have been victim of like actually hearing and really absorbing what people say about me, to me, about my horses, about the horse world.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of work and like self-worth, confidence, maturity, mostly maturity.
Yeah.
To then be able to, like you said, discern what actually aligns with you personally.
Yeah.
So that you can stay open and honest and vulnerable, but then remember that what everyone says to you about your horses or about horsemanship may or may not align with you, and that's okay.
Yeah. I did an interview right when I came down to Wellington for the first time with a lady, and she sat down with me and she looked me in the eyes and told me, "You're too nice. You're going to have to get thicker skin to be in this sport." And I was like, I almost took offense to that and was like, but I don't want to change who I am. Like I was kind of like annoyed by it and, like, why can't I just be me and like be in the sport? Like, why does it have to be different? I now look at that and be like, okay, she was right in the sense I had to like kind of get thicker skin, but it was in a way that I wanted to get it, not in a way of I had to be hard, cold, and, like abrasive, like that's what I thought she meant. And now I'm like, okay, she was right, but maybe in a different way than I was thinking. And I've actually matured into what she probably now would say, be like, okay, you've grown up.
Do you think people are inherently tough
in our sport?
Yeah. Like, do you think we come out of the womb like tough?
No.
Right.
No.
So when I now experience that in people, I'm like, it's like the same when you have some of the horses that Dana sees. That have these huge defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
They didn't come out of the womb kicking and screaming and bucking and rearing, going, F you, this is bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were
It makes me second guess my child's personality, though.
It's because she's tough.
Yeah. She's tough. But I think that it's...
But is she tough or is she, like, strong?
She's strong, I would say. But I think that that's why those teenage years of a horse, of baby teenage years, are important. And like Dana starts, he would really like to back his, and he says, don't touch them until they're 2. Put them in a pasture. Do not touch them. And like he gets annoyed when, like they're being handled with halters and like all that kind of stuff. Because he almost thinks that creates a bit of boundary. Like it crosses boundaries. And when they're 2, he'll put like 30 days on them, throw them out, and then by the time they're 3 and ready to start moving again, they already kind of know what's happening. They mature a little bit, but they were in that 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old stage of like, that's when the imprint needs to happen, and then you can kind of do your harder work later on. But when they're not touched or like doing something until they're 5, because we think that they need to keep growing or like things like that, which could be the case, but he's like, there's too much time in between that.
Yeah.
But I don't think horses, I think they have personalities, but I don't think that they come out mean or...
So, because I also received that message of people like, oh, you better toughen up, girl. Like, especially when I started everything for Noëlle Floyd over in Europe. Everyone's like, oh, honey, you're going to have to really, I think the word was man up.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And then actually, I look back on it now and it's like, sure, you're naive of certain things.
Yeah.
And but I totally relate to that feeling of feeling broken.
Yeah.
I've been broken, I think, by the horse world more than once.
Yes.
But then when we come back better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think if we fight, I think we should fight for the ability to be
open and vulnerable and honest and imperfect.
Yeah.
Because if we try to do the opposite, one, that's impossible. I think that's an impossible standard for all of us to try to achieve.
Yeah.
And two, it also, if we allow it in ourselves, then we allow it in the horses.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
What a world the horse. What
Yeah.
would that look like in the
Yeah.
horse world if we could allow that in our horses?
Yeah. Probably a lot of high performing horses and mentally sane people. It's yeah, I agree. I've always felt like that people aren't open enough. It's always felt very like we're kind of in an anomaly. Like we're just too nice. But I think that people need to feel that. We need to feel being able to feel safe. And right now with our sport not feeling safe, I think that there's a level of I don't know, talking about it more and like opening up like as a human. That could definitely lead to our horses for sure.
Yeah. I think it's important as the pendulum swings back and forth, which it always does.
Yeah.
It's important, I think, that we, one, allow for, we're going to be perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
We'll never, nothing that humans ever endeavor to do. I mean, what, a spaceship just blew up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like we're trying to do, whenever we try as a species, as an individual to do great things, you are inevitably going to do it so imperfectly so many times before you do it just good enough to do it.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see as the pendulum swings.
Yeah.
Can we, instead of virtue signaling and instead of judging and instead of shaming the things that you see that you don't like, can we instead have a conversation about it?
Yeah.
Can we even, what if, heaven forbid, we even allowed people who were doing something that we didn't like, what if we asked them, hey, what's the thought process behind that?
Yeah.
Could you explain it to me?
Yep.
What would that conversation be like?
I'd be too terrified to ask.
I don't know.
Oh man. Yeah. It would be good. But I think that people, again, I think we've talked about it, but people go to those states of riding rough and not caring about the way that they're treating their horse because of lack of knowledge and a lack of,
Empathy.
empathy.
Yeah. Okay. Before we wrap, I always ask the same rapid fire questions.
Oh, God.
And I'm so excited to hear your answers. Okay. If you could read one book to the horse world, what would it be?
How Champions Think by Dr. Bob Rotella.
Cool.
That's a good one. And then Inner Excellence, Jim Murphy. That's a new one that I just started reading.
Ooh.
But that talks a lot about camaraderie and you're only good as your competition, and really, competition's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, and it raises the bar of the sport and all that kind of stuff. So that's a lot of I find a lot of golf books and psychologists really good because the game of golf is such a mind game also. And so both of those guys work with a lot of golfers.
I love it.
Yeah.
Who is the most iconic horse in history?
I'm going to say Diddy.
Yeah?
I love Diddy. I love him. I love Laura. I think that, to me, I know everyone says Vallegro and Totalist and all that kind of stuff, but I think Diddy is he's an epitome of just this whole story with Laura.
Yeah.
Never giving up. She had him for his whole life, and it's just amazing what they accomplish. So I would say Diddy.
Shout out to the alien Laura. I'm with you on that. That's a good pick. Most undervalued skill as a rider?
Patience.
Who is the greatest horseman or horsewoman in history?
Oh, gosh. I'm going to say Debbie McDonald.
Ooh, good pick. Why?
I think that she, as a rider and as a just her philosophy of always putting the horse first has been an inspiration to me. And then my husband.
Good pick. And the last question,
I'm very curious to hear what you say about this. Mares, stallions, or gelding?
Geldings all day.
Yeah?
It's so funny because I don't know why I've never really stuck with a mare, because I can be I'm very patient. Like, I feel like I'm almost probably too patient. And I think that geldings are just sweet. Most of the time, they're just super sweet, straightforward. Most of the time, all horses are different. But yeah, I would say I usually stick with the geldings. I've had one stallion, and he was a pony.
Oh, I love stallions too.
Yeah.
Kasey, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Man, that was such a cool conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yeti, for supporting us on this journey of a lifetime as we traverse the heart of the horse world. If the access and insight of this podcast makes you want to go deeper and actually apply these ideas with your own horses, NF Plus is where I've brought together some of the best riders, trainers, horsemen, horsewomen, sports psychologists, and practitioners in the horse world. Inside the NF Plus app, you'll find more than 70 masterclass courses on the challenges so many of us face. Spooky horses, finding a distance, developing a better canter, developing feel, navigating fear and anxiety, or becoming a more thoughtful rider and horse person. Our instructors include Tick Maynard, Will Coleman, Carl Cook, Peter Wild, Dr. Jenny Susser, Ann Krasinski, and so many more. I created NF Plus as a safe, thoughtful place to learn at your own pace, with teachers and riders who have a wealth of knowledge. You can explore more at noellefloydplus.com or find the link to download the app in the show notes.